There's a moment most people never notice happening. Somewhere between your 20s and your 40s, years stop feeling like years. They start feeling like weeks, and nobody warns you. Nobody tells you that one day you'll blink, and an entire summer will have vanished, not because you were distracted, not because you were unhappy, but because of something happening deep inside your brain that you have almost no control over. That's what this is about. And before you assume this is just philosophy or self-help dressed up in science, it isn't. What's actually happening in your nervous system when time accelerates is strange enough to make physicists uncomfortable and neuroscientists genuinely unsure. Because it turns out the way your brain constructs time has almost nothing to do with clocks. It has everything to do with information. Here's the first thing that should bother you. Children don't experience time the way adults do. A summer when you were 8 years old felt endless. 3 months of heat and freedom and boredom. That same 3 months at age 35 disappears before you can catalog it. Same duration. Completely different experience. So what changed? Not the clock, not the physics. Something changed in the machine doing the perceiving. That question, what changed, is going to take a while to answer properly. And the answer, when it finally arrives, is going to be more unsettling than you expect. Let's start with something most people get completely wrong. The popular explanation is simple. When you're young, 3 months is a larger fraction of your total life, so it feels longer. A 6-year-old experiencing 1 year is experiencing 1/6 of their entire existence. A 60-year-old experiencing 1 year is experiencing 1/60. Proportional time. Clean. Intuitive. And almost certainly not the primary reason. Because if that were true, time would accelerate smoothly and predictably across your entire life. It doesn't. There are pockets, specific seasons, specific years, that feel thick and full and long, even in adulthood. And there are weeks in childhood that blur past with nothing to show for them. The proportion theory can't explain that. Something else is doing the heavy lifting. Pause and predict what happens next. If proportional time isn't the answer, what is your brain actually measuring when it perceives duration? Here's where the neuroscience gets strange. Your brain doesn't have a single clock. There's no dedicated time organ, no internal metronome that ticks at a steady rate from birth to death. Instead, your brain constructs the feeling of time passage from something almost shockingly indirect. The density of new information it has to process. Think about the last time you drove somewhere completely unfamiliar. That drive probably felt long, longer than the miles suggested. Now think about driving the same route after doing it 50 times. It collapses. It feels like almost nothing happened, even though the same distance passed, the same time elapsed on every clock in the universe. Your brain, in the second case, generated almost no new information. It ran on autopilot, and the autopilot leaves almost no trace. This is the core mechanism, and it's more radical than it sounds. Your brain is not recording time, it is recording novelty. And when novelty drops, when your days become predictable, your routes familiar, your conversations expected, the recording gets sparse, and sparse recordings, when played back, feel short. This is a simplified explanation to make the core idea intuitive, but the underlying neuroscience genuinely supports this direction. Memory formation, attention, and the subjective sense of duration are all deeply entangled. Now here's the twist that most people miss entirely. This isn't just about how long things feel in the moment. It's about retrospect. In the moment, a boring afternoon can feel interminable. But 6 months later, when your brain tries to reconstruct that period, it finds almost nothing. No distinct events, no novel anchors, and it compresses that entire stretch into what feels like a blink. The measurement of time in retrospect is what accelerates as you age, not necessarily the moment-to-moment experience. That distinction matters enormously. It means the problem isn't that your days feel shorter while they're happening. It's that your years feel shorter when you look back. Pause and predict what happens next. If the problem is sparse memories, not enough novel anchors, what do you think happens to people who deliberately seek new experiences as they age? Studies on autobiographical memory suggest that people who continue introducing novelty, new languages, new environments, new skills, new social configurations, report a subjectively richer sense of time passing, not necessarily slower in the moment, but denser in retrospect. Their mental recordings have more chapters. When they look back at a year, they find more distinct events to count. But here's where it gets philosophically uncomfortable. Most of what we call living life as adults is optimization. We find the good restaurant and return to it. We build routines because routines reduce cognitive load, and cognitive load is exhausting. We are, in a very literal sense, trading richness of experience for efficiency, and the cost of that trade is paid in the currency of perceived time. Years that cost nothing to navigate also feel like they cost nothing to experience. There's a word for this in neuroscience: habituation. Your brain is extraordinarily good at it. Repeated stimuli generate weaker and weaker neural responses. The first time you smell coffee in the morning, it registers. The 100th time, it barely touches you. Your nervous system has learned that this input carries no new information, and it allocates almost no processing power to it. Habituation is efficient. It's also, in a strange way, a form of perceptual erasure. Now, here's the misconception that almost everyone holds. People assume that boredom makes time feel slow, and that means boring periods should feel long in memory too. But that's not what happens. Boredom in the moment can feel slow. Each minute drags, but a boring month leaves almost no memory trace. In retrospect, it vanishes. The paradox is real. Time can feel slow while it's happening and short in memory. These are two completely different processes running in your brain simultaneously. This is where a real-world comparison helps. Think about what happens when a musician learns to hear music differently. Before training, a complex piece of jazz is noise. After years of practice, the same piece is dense with information, rhythmic patterns, harmonic movements, structural choices. The musician experiences more in the same duration of sound than an untrained listener, because they have the neural architecture to extract more signal from the same input. More information processed, more subjective richness, arguably more time. Your brain, over time, builds expert models of the world. And expert models are compression algorithms. They're extraordinarily efficient at processing familiar information by reducing it to pattern map. The world becomes predictable, and predictability, neurologically, is nearly invisible. Here is the rehook. The real point is not that your brain is broken as you age. The real point is that your brain is succeeding. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do: conserving resources, building efficient models, reducing the metabolic cost of navigating existence. The acceleration of time is not a malfunction. It is the signature of a brain that has gotten very, very good at its job. That reframing changes everything, because it means the question is not "what's wrong with me?" The question is, what is the cost of optimization, and is it one worth paying without awareness? There's also a deeper layer here that connects to something almost physical. Some researchers studying neural timing have noticed that as the brain ages, the rate at which it can sample new visual information, the number of distinct frames the visual cortex processes per second, may slow slightly. If that's true, and the evidence is still being debated, then there might be a mild physical analog to this phenomenon. Fewer distinct neural moments per real-world second, fewer frames, a slightly lower resolution recording of time. This is speculative, and it should be held loosely, but it points towards something genuinely strange, that the experience of time might be partially determined by the hardware doing the experiencing, which means two people standing in the same room, watching the same clock, might not be experiencing the same duration, not in a metaphorical sense, in a deeply neurological one. The common misconception is that time is something that happens to you, a container you move through, uniform, external, indifferent. But what the science keeps pointing toward is something more intimate and more disturbing. Time, as you experience it, is something your brain builds, moment by moment, from information, from novelty, from the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. And when expectation and reality stop diverging, when the world stops surprising you, The construction slows, the recording thins, and years begin to feel like weeks, not because the universe changed, but because you understood it too well. That is the real limit of reality here, not the limit of physics, the limit of perception. The universe keeps ticking at the same rate. Your access to that ticking shrinks as your model of the world gets more accurate. The most alive moments of your life, the ones that still feel long in memory, the ones that still feel dense and real, were probably the ones where you didn't know what came next. Time doesn't speed up as you age. Your brain just runs out of things to be surprised by.